following celebrities were once great Hollywood legends, but for one reason or another, they vanished from Hollywood and the world. Welcome to Beyond the Screen. I'm Nate, and today we're breaking down the top 10 celebrities who disappeared from Hollywood. Number 10, Brendan Fraser. He's journeyed to the center of the earth. He's beaten the Mummy, and now he's an Oscar-winning actor. Brendan Fraser was dominating the silver screen in the mid-90s and early 2000s thanks to his many successful projects like The Mummy, Monkey Bone, and Bedazzled, a movie which I used to call criminally underrated, but I watched it recently and it did not age well at all. As the years went by and computer-generated comedy became the norm, Brendan was being cast in family movies like Looney Tunes Back in Action and Furry Vengeance. It was actually that last movie that ended up sending Brendan off the rails and into hiding. Brendan had actually experienced some mistreatment on the part of a former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, Philip Burke, who would regularly touch Brendan without his consent. On top of the mistreatment at work, he was experiencing issues in his personal life and in his marriage, leading him to make the decision to step back from Hollywood before he snapped. Thankfully, his voice was heard. Philip Burke is a trash bag who will never work again, and Brendan made a stellar return to the acting world in a one-room drama called The Whale, for which he recently won Best Actor at the 96th annual Oscars ceremony. If everything works out, we might actually get that Looney Tunes sequel finally. Please, somebody make the Looney Tunes sequel. Number 9, Amanda Bynes. Amanda got her lucky break on the Nickelodeon sketch series All That. It was essentially the Nickelodeon version of the late-night sketch show Saturday Night Live. It sported a stellar cast including SNL cast member Kenan Thompson, Drake Bell, and Lori Beth Denberg. Eventually, the producers decided to offer Amanda her own series. Her success only grew from there, as the Amanda Bynes Show became one of Nickelodeon's most watched series, and she was picked up by several studios to star in non-Nickelodeon projects like She's the Man and Easy A. Amanda took a hiatus, however, in 2013 following a very public mental breakdown. In 2018, she told fans exactly what caused that breakdown. According to Amanda, she became addicted to the devil's lettuce at a very young age. And while it wasn't an addiction at first, with more roles came more pressure and a need to find a new way to cope. This eventually led her to more drastic substances. In 2013, Amanda posted a series of bizarre tweets where she seemed to be insulting like everybody that she could think of. She called the former President Barack Obama ugly, clearly referencing a character from The Amanda Show, but still, it's very rude. She was arrested and placed under psychiatric hold as she was accused of several hit-and-run incidents and was officially charged with reckless endangerment and criminal possession of herbs and spices. Her parents then placed her under a conservatorship until 2022, when she stood in front of a judge, healthier and better than ever, ready to move on with her life. The judge said okay, and now Amanda is free to live. So good luck, there's a million kids who grew up with you and we've got your back. Number 8, Cameron Diaz. Cameron actually got her start working in a different type of film, and that is of the adult variety. In 1995, she was casted in her first serious silver screen role alongside the legendary Jim Carrey in his classic comedy The Mask. She stole the show as Jim's love interest, and her career was officially launched. She starred in several films of various genres over the years, appearing in everything from Shrek to Charlie's Angels, two very different movies, yet they somehow work perfectly together as a double feature. Around 2012, Cameron suddenly vanished from the acting world overnight. A sequel to her raunchy comedy Bad Teacher was actually set to start filming, but it was canned after Cameron announced that she would be retiring from the acting world completely. I guess being in the Green Hornet was enough to make her question her life choices, that's fair. Up until this past year, she had remained outside of the world of Hollywood, but recently returned from her acting hiatus after being asked to participate in an action comedy with Hollywood A-lister Jamie Foxx. That film shoot was so full of drama, and if you want to go watch our Jamie Foxx series, good lord, it was rough. It was so bad that Cameron announced that she would be returning to her retirement now that the film has wrapped and Jamie is back on his feet following a brief hospital stint. Oh well, no Shrek 5 for us, I guess. Donkey! Sorry, I need to get that out of my system. Number 7, Macaulay Culkin. This guy had more money by the time he was in his mid-teens than any of us will probably see in a lifetime. Macaulay got his big break when he starred as the leading lad Miles Russell in the 1989 comedy classic Uncle Buck alongside the late great John Candy. After that, he was the lead in several blockbuster hits from Home Alone and My Girl to Richie Rich and the Page Master. This guy was unstoppable. Well, until puberty hit him right in the wrong tables. Scooby-Doo reference for you. At the age of 15, he legally emancipated himself from his parents, meaning that in the eyes eyes of the state, he was an adult living on his own. He decided to take time for himself to learn how to properly be an adult instead of just growing up in Hollywood and landing in a bad spot. He enrolled himself in high school, an experience that he had been missing out on as he had spent 6 years of his childhood on set with tutors. Following school, Macaulay took a bit of a rough turn and had become heavily addicted to narcotics. He shocked fans in 2012 with an image of himself looking frail and clutching a Red Bull with every ounce of energy that he had. Thankfully, this was only a brief moment in the man's career. He eventually got help, cleaned up his act, and he even made a return to the acting world, most recently starring in the last season of the horror series American Horror Story, as well as reprising his Home Alone role in a tongue-and-cheek Google Home Assisted commercial. It's pretty neat. He currently spends his time with his wife, former Disney star Brenda Song, and is on track to make a return to the Hollywood scene for very good reasons very soon. Number 6. Rick Moranis. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Rick Moranis was one of Hollywood's top comedic actors, being in cult classic comedy flicks like Ghostbusters and the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise. But if you're a musical geek, you might know him as the lovable plant shopkeeper Seymour Krupnik in Little Shop of Horrors. Seymour! In 1997, Rick seemingly fell off the face of the earth after he announced his retirement from acting with little explanation. He had just finished starring in the third Shrunk movie, Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, but as it turns out, he was miserable the entire time. By 1997, it had been 6 years since costume designer and Rick's wife, Ann Belsky, passed away. Rick tried to keep a strong face and continue his acting career, but by the end of 1997, he had been mentally exhausted and needed to return home to focus on being a full-time dad to his 2 kids, Rachel and Mitchell. It seemed that playing a dad on screen after his wife's passing was just a constant reminder that he had real-life kids of his own to worry about accidentally shrinking. The plot of this movie is in the title, yet it still holds up. Every time I see that ant come on screen, I cry. I'm just like, run away, Auntie! Rick never made a return to the acting world, but he has no regrets and spends his days as a proud papa. Number 5. Michael J. Fox. Michael J. was the hottest star around in 1985 thanks to his popularity on the show Family Ties. He was in demand left and right to the point where Eric Stoltz, who was the original actor chosen for Marty McFly in Back to the Future, was recast midway through production after Michael became available to shoot. In 1985, he starred in a season of Family Ties, the first Back to the Future movie, and the first Teen Wolf movie, which, if you haven't seen before, I highly recommend that you keep it that way. A werewolf plays basketball and becomes popular, okay? That's the entire movie. You're welcome. It was nothing but paychecks and pools after that. He was cast in several films and TV shows, mainly sticking to voice acting roles the closer he got to the year 2000. And there was actually a reason that Michael was slowly weaning himself out of Hollywood's eye, and it sucks. Michael had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease when he was 29 years old, an illness that he kept under wraps for many years. Parkinson's is a brain disorder that causes unintended and uncontrollable movements such as shaking, stiffness, and difficulty with balance and coordination. He decided to take time away from Hollywood to focus on his health and to start a foundation dedicated to research for the disease. In 2022, he was presented with an honorary Oscar, the Jean Herschel Humanitarian Award, by the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, and gave an impassioned speech that is just making me tear up thinking about it. Oh my god, can we please move on? Number 4. Meg Ryan. Meg was the rom-com queen of the 90s, starring as the love interest in a bunch of classic flicks like When Harry Met Sally, You've Got Mail, and Sleepless in Seattle. Now, by the turn of the century, her career had seemed to be going nowhere but up. Unfortunately, that all came to a screeching halt in 2003 following her time on set of the R-rated thriller In the Cut, starring alongside Mark Ruffalo as a school teacher having a torrid affair with Mark's detective character. The film is filled with distinguishably deviant acts of physical atrocities that nobody needs to see. One thing audiences did see, however, was Meg in her birthday suit. The woman once seen by many as the shy girl next door type was just on screen, everything out for the world to see. Meg claims that the shoot itself did not cause her to leave the world of Hollywood. It was actually the massive amounts of negativity she received for her performance. Fans were mortified at the sight of their rom-com sweetheart getting down and dirty with the Incredible Hulk and blasted her for doing such a raunchy and out-of-character performance. This was the breaking point, as at that point her life had become difficult enough, literally being unable to walk to a convenience store without being surrounded by fans. She was burnt out and decided to take a break to focus on her relationship with musician John Mellencamp, but fans will be happy to know that she's set to make a return to the acting world sometime later this year in a sitcom produced by the creator of SNL, Lorne Michaels. Here's hoping we get that Harry Met Sally sequel that we all want, When Harry Met the Divorce Papers. Number 3. Mara Wilson. Does anybody else just smell pancakes when they think about Matilda? The beloved children's novel Matilda written by Roald Dahl, was adapted into a live-action family flick in 1996, starring Danny DeVito, Rhea Perlman, and Mara Wilson as the titular force-wielding bookworm Matilda. For those unfamiliar with this story, I pity you with all of my soul. Go watch it right after this video. Matilda is the story of a young girl gifted with a keen intellect and psychic powers that she uses to deal with her terrible family and her sadistic school headmaster. I would say that plot is insane, but this came from the same guy who made Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and a kid turns into a blueberry in that movie. So, you know, this film is still considered to be a classic family movie that will remain timeless. The odd thing with the film was that it ended up being one of Mara's last big on-screen roles. She starred in smaller movies like Thomas the Tank Engine's live-action movie, which I didn't know existed until now, but now that image is in my head and it's a nightmare. But ultimately, she vanished from Hollywood without a trace. But this was because of probably the most valid reason ever. Unfortunately, her mother was diagnosed with cancer in 1995. In fact, while Mara was filming Matilda, Rhea, who played her mother in the movie, would have to regularly babysit and take care of Mara as her mother was too sick at the time. Following her mom's passing, Mara attempted to continue acting, but ultimately took a break following a negative experience on that live-action Thomas movie I was talking about. Apparently appearing in it at the same time as puberty began to rear its ugly zit-filled head wasn't a good idea. The crew were giving her funny looks, and the director actually sat her down and had the talk with her, causing the most massive amount of embarrassment I could only imagine. Is so much. She quit being an actor to first become a well-rounded person, which it seems that she has done. Mara has slowly been returning to the world of Hollywood and now works behind the scenes as a producer. Here's hoping we get that Matilda reboot with Mara as Miss Honey. Number 2, Josh Hartnett. Fans of the Netflix series Black Mirror may recognize Josh from an episode of its most recent season called Beyond the Sea, in which he starred alongside Aaron Paul in one of the most brutal episodes that I've ever seen from this show. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm just gonna leave it at that. This comes after an almost 10-year hiatus from the acting world. Josh was said to be the next Tom Cruise following his success in roles like Pearl Harbor and Black Hawk Down, on track to be the next big thing in Hollywood. However, following a performance in the film Lucky Number 11 alongside Morgan Freeman, Josh vanished from the mainstream, limiting himself to acting in small TV roles or low-budget films. The choice came after he woke up one day and decided that he wanted to try having a more low-key, normal life in Surrey, England. He suddenly appeared in a 2021 film called Wrath of Man, which sparked excitement that he may be returning to the acting world. This was confirmed by not only his casting in Black Mirror, but he's also set to star as Ernest Lawrence alongside Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, Cillian Murphy, and RDJ in Christopher Nolan's new biopic Oppenheimer, which he claims will simulate a small percentage of what an actual bomb being dropped might feel like. So if your showing of Barbie is interrupted by the sounds of screams and the room starts shaking, now you know what. And at number 1, Ashton Kutcher. Allow me to remind you all the real reason why Ashton doesn't work in Hollywood anymore. Does that make sense? It makes sense. Ashton first rose to fame starring in That 70s Show alongside his future wife Mila Kunis. While the show did launch him into his future projects, he suddenly fell off the face of the earth towards the end of 2010. No, and it wasn't because he hosted Punk'd, although it really should be. The reason that he quit was to focus his efforts on making the world a better place. Apparently over the past few years, Ashton has been focusing his attention on using his status and platform to end trafficking and exploitation of youths around the world. He created an organization now known as the Digital Defenders of Children, which sounds like a weird anime that you would watch on like a Sunday morning. All jokes aside, he has had a massive impact on the world, and through his organization he has saved 6,000 kids across the globe, which is genuinely incredible. So I'm sorry if you wanted me to make fun of him, it's not gonna happen. Those are the celebrities who vanished without a trace. Who did we miss, and would you like to see a part 2? Let us know by liking this video and coming back to the channel every day for more celebrity content. Thanks for stopping beyond the screen today, and we'll see you next time.